I was doing these batch of new cars and new drivers and thinking, oh my God, just a few years ago, this would have taken us like 5 times more time.
So even you with your traditional sort of fintech banking background, and then you had this crypto project come along, even you were like, oh, wow, this is really new stuff that we're working with here.
It was 2 Estonians about to launch a fleet company in Latvia. Okay, one of them lives in Latvia and speaks Latvian, but I was like, well, that's bold.
So a good leader isn't someone who just gives a task. They're someone who really cares. They understand. They're asking those big questions. It's not just, oh, go ahead, do that. Yeah, that looks fine.
Don't try to build everything yourself. If you have a product feature that needs to be done, and for somebody else, it's their complete product, chances are they know it better than you do. You need to also start thinking about social engineering hacks on AI. Like, for example, if you have AI agents in your company doing some kind of tasks, and you know how gullible sometimes AI can be, right?
Hello, and welcome to Tech Effect, the podcast where we interview industry leaders and experts on the topics and trends shaping the tech industry. My name is Josh from TestDevLab's marketing team, and today I'm joined by Uldis Tēraudkalns. Uldis is a finance and technology executive with more than 10 years of management, business development, and governance experience across fintech, investment management, and more. Uldis' current work has him focusing on leveraging AI to build the internal systems behind a ride-hailing fleet named OkoRide. And it's a pleasure to have him join us today on the podcast. So without further ado, welcome, Uldis.
Hi, man. Glad to be here.
Pleasure to have you and have you on the podcast. Now, Uldis, you're a veteran of the Baltic tech scene. But to help our audience understand your journey more, I'd like to take it back to the start. You've built a career working with the cutting edge of technology, starting in fintech and moving beyond. So what drew you to the fintech industry specifically at the start, and how did you move beyond that?
Well, heavyweight is maybe a bit, or veteran is a bit heavy to say, but I've been around and I've done quite a lot in fintech and crypto, and I would say that what drove me to fintech is actually crypto, right? That's in 2015. I didn't know much about it, and then a project came to the company where I was working with as an investment manager, and they're like, we're gonna build a global Bitcoin exchange, the first regulated one. And I was like, what's Bitcoin? And then, start researching, and that was that thing that was, used by these drug traffickers and that lost like 90% of its value in one day. That thing. All right. So then, started researching a bit and was like, oh, there is something to it here. And actually, yeah, that first interaction changed the course of my career. Quite radically, as previously I was in this traditional banking as start of my career, and then just very, very general business. And even working in this investment company, we were mostly dealing with very traditional brick and mortar kind of businesses, as the tech industry at that time was very limited. Either it was fully corporate, or it was a few guys at Tech Hub playing ping pong, or things like that. And there were a few companies and serious companies back then, but there was no real ecosystem, and I think that there was no general knowledge on how to build technology companies. So that came, I would say, in the last 10 years. And so that's basically how I ended up in this whole fintech world, because we started with this crypto project, and then we realized that this regulation is not very clear, not very understandable. That's not going to be also a big USP, because there's people that are doing all kinds of exotic things in an unregulated way, and people love it, because if they want some regulated and complicated stuff, then they can go to traditional finance. But crypto lets them go crazy, completely ape down the rabbit hole, and lose all their money as adults, right? So then we realized that this regulated exchange thing is not maybe the best, but the regulation came in a different way, as we realized that a lot of these projects in this industry are struggling to get banking and payments. and we had the licensing to do it. So that's basically how the kind of merge of crypto and fintech in my career and my project happened, and we basically started focusing on this banking and payments side to help other crypto companies that are playing by the rules to have access to the traditional financial system and then combine it with crypto.
It was reassuring to know that it wasn't just because when I heard about crypto, I asked my software developer friend, like, what is a crypto, man? Everyone's talking about it now. What is this? It's like, it's money, but it doesn't exist. And I went, what? So even you with your traditional sort of fintech banking background, and then you had this crypto project come along, and even you were like, oh, wow, this is really new stuff that we're working with here.
Yeah, and it was actually already like 6 years old back then, and now it's more than 15 years old. But still, I think for every person, like, to really go down the rabbit hole, you have to do a bit of reading and do a bit of research, and some will understand more, some will understand less, because and I'm talking about Bitcoin here. I'm not talking about other things. Like, for me, crypto is basically Bitcoin. And, it's this cross-section of cryptology, computer science, also political kind of libertarianism and philosophy, also combined with economics and behavioral finance, and so it's quite a complex. Quite a complex thing. So I think to truly understand it well, you have to study it a lot, and probably the more you study it, the more you understand that you don't understand that much. So I have like some understanding and some experience. And I have some faith as well in the future of it. So yeah, it does take investment to really understand what's going on.
And the Baltic, I guess, takes you again, as you started, when you got this project, now this far on, now in 2025 going into 26, is it a lot more established, the crypto space in the Baltics?
It is, if you speak specifically about crypto space. So there have been waves, and it's also a combination of kind of internal crypto space and external, because there was a lot of attracted projects in Estonia initially with first wave of kind of regulation afterwards in Lithuania. And now actually Latvia is kind of trying to have a wave of external parties come in. And then there is this internal market. And this internal market, has been also very kind of here but not here at the same time, because the regulatory framework was not so friendly here. Like my own company that I was building, we had Lithuanian licensing, we had UK licensing, we had all kinds of different operational companies. But in Latvia, we just had people who were, working under the radar. I mean, not doing anything illegal, but not doing any kind of regulated services.
They had to work through the UK, through Lithuania.
Exactly. And there's a lot of companies like that. And I think that there is more and more like... let's say, I wouldn't call it resentment, but maybe some people are like, hey, we would have really liked doing this business fully here. And now that they're excited that, Bank of Latvia is saying, yes, let's do this crypto hub here, and everybody who is working from here should also be registered here. And then I see that there is this enthusiasm, very cautious though, because of the kind of background and experience that, it hasn't been easy to do business with the regulators here. So, but it would really kind of also let the local players shine more locally, because they would have reasons why to be more public about what they do. I mean, it's not like they have something to hide, but there's no point. Like, why would I invest in like local PR, for example, if I'm not selling any services locally, right? So.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's it's a lot more established. Started in Estonia because they're a very digital country. Lithuania picked up because they're investing heavily in their banks, etc. Now Latvia's coming along. So it's sort of all the Baltic space is now got their foot in sort of the crypto world, and they're all pushing for it, and it's developing quite a lot in Latvia. And along that journey, because Latvia is now getting more established, the Bank of Latvia is doing stuff, and you've worked with Lithuania and that. What had the biggest impact on you during this journey? So you got your first project, like, what is crypto? Now we're here today. What was that big moment? You're like, this is a really big moment for me. That was that big influence.
Well, that is a great question.
It's a big question.
Yeah. I mean, are you talking about crypto in general?
Crypto or anywhere in your journey, what was the big inspiration for you?
Well, there was a quite big inspiration in terms of crypto. I read this book by the Winklevoss brothers called Bitcoin Billionaires. I mean, it's about them. It's not by them. It's by this Ben Mesrich, I think his name is. It's just a fascinating story about them coming back from a massive failure with Facebook and basically being as to put it, quote directly, effed in the ear by Mark Zuckerberg. And they came back and proved that they're not a fluke, that they're not, that they weren't there just
like a
accidentally.
Course, yeah.
Exactly. They were, Olympic rowers. They were at the beginning of Facebook. They became Bitcoin billionaires. Now they have this Gemini that they started, and everyone is like, yeah, their pet project that is going to die, and it's still there and growing and big. So. And the book also went through the kind of history of Bitcoin and the reasons why Bitcoin mattered, like the Cypriot banking crisis, where they basically took away half of people's money, and it was like, okay, if they had Bitcoin, they wouldn't be able to do that because, I mean, your own keys to your own coins, right? So that was just a kind of philosophically a moment which kind of cemented my conviction about Bitcoin and its future.
That's good. And it's not just fintech you've worked beyond fintech. So what are those other industries you've worked on outside of fintech, and what drew you to those industries?
Well, it's more about what I'm doing currently then, because for the vast part of my career, I was working in fintech and in crypto. So as of this year, I have been embarking on a journey with a couple of uni friends of mine, building a fleet of technologically driven, let's say, ride-hailing operations. Currently in Riga, it's a company called OkoRide. So we have a fleet of Teslas, and we basically hire drivers, and they operate through the Bolt platform. And we use technology to make the operations more efficient, maximize utilization of the cars, and basically do things in a completely different way as other taxi companies are doing, or fleet companies in Latvia are doing so far. And what drew me to this industry was just basically the wish to try something different. That was one thing. Another thing was that I really wanted to do something local. And it's a kind of 180 in my philosophy, because 5, 7, 10 years ago, my thinking was that, Latvia is small. It's such a pond, there's not much business opportunities. And if you are doing something, then most likely you're going to have to doing something with the government or something like that. And, you have to then think about some kind of corruption and then these kind of matters. And like much more glamorous to build something globally, huge markets, technology companies. You basically don't have to worry about the local market. And recently, after I kind of left active duty on NexPay management, then my philosophy kind of changed completely. I was like, what can I do here locally in Latvia? What can I build here? How can I contribute to this specific economy and my own country? And then my friends came up with this project and told me that they're doing it. It was 2 Estonians about to launch a fleet company in Latvia. Okay, one of them lives in Latvia and speaks Latvian, but I was like, well, that's bold. Hey, how about I join you guys and help out a bit on the local front and help with management of the people, because it's still a very heavily people business, and And for the past few years, all I had been doing was people as CEO of NexPay and working in other companies. So yeah, and I was just also excited about what technology can do. Actually, we discovered it on the go. It wasn't like a clear part of our business plan how we're gonna build out some our own technology. But my co-founder Johan started playing with Replit. And the results were shocking. Like how fast you can get stuff done.
It's AI leveraged this writing thing.
Yeah, it's basically so-called vibe coding, right? And then we started realizing, oh my God, this can have a completely another edge to our business. First of all, it can really boost our operations. It can limit the headcount that we need to hire, and so far we haven't hired anybody besides the drivers. So it's just 3 founders doing all of the admin work, and AI helping in the middle. And second, we were thinking, okay, well, with very careful consideration investment, this could actually be also turned into a software product if we wanted at some point. So yeah, there's big opportunities, and you just need to also focus. So for now, we're focusing on building out in Riga and in the background working on the opportunities. But as I learned from NexPay, it's absolutely critical to maintain focus in general business development and also in technology and software development. So focusing we are.
I guess part of that philosophy shift for you was the Baltic tech scene has evolved, like when you started and where it is now. And as you said, they are trying to create more of a tech hub, more of a fintech hub in Latvia. So that is a change in mentality. But it does lead on to my next question of, you were in those fintech companies, you pulled back, you wanted to do something more local. What was it like going from startups in different industries there? You've got the highly regulated fintech industry, and now you're doing your own local rideshare. What was it like in those different startup environments?
Well, completely different. Let's start with that. Completely different kind of human capital that you are exposed to. Completely different needs and aspirations. I think very big difference also is and it's deliberate also, because one of our considerations was that we're going to be doing this profitably from day one. I mean, there can be weeks or months of loss making due to faster growth or something like that, but at the core operations level, we're going to be profitable. So basically from day one, the company is going to bring in money, which never happens in fintech. Basically ever, because you need a lot of investment initially to build out like your product, your systems, your licensing. It usually you have, in the optimistic pitch deck to investors, there's going to be 12 months project to launch. In reality, it's probably going to be like 24 months or so. So it's completely different way also of building business and thinking about the P&L is like. When you build a traditional kind of like a VC-backed startup, then you are thinking in terms of burn rate, in terms of runway, in terms of the next funding round, while working in the way that we are working and doing our business. It's like, okay, we are working with these specific numbers. We are generating this revenue. This is what we can afford. Can we buy a new printer? No, we cannot, because then we're not going to be profitable, for example. While when you're burning money, then it's like, okay, your burn rate is like 100,000 or 100,000 and 500. Is that a big difference? No, probably not. I mean, we're gonna raise anyway, so it's gonna be. So I think it's in that sense, from one hand, more disciplined, and from other hand, also less stressful, because you don't have this kind of. Runway hanging over your head and like about to throw an axe down your neck, right? So in that sense, it's also quite liberating.
Yeah, that's good. And to keep along that line of your leadership experience, you've had this traditional banking start, you've moved to crypto, you've built regulated payment platforms, and you have your current app. How is the way tech leaders think about risk and quality changing across these different industries? We know what it's like to operate in them. You have to have sort of more money. You're not worried as much in the fintech industry when you start. You have that burn rate. You need to be profitable in some other industries. How do you assess risk across all these different products you've worked in?
Well, it very much depends on the stage of the company, right? The industry of the company, how regulated it is, and how risky is the underlying data and the underlying, let's say, business, right? I mean, it's a very big difference. For example, if you're handling client funds, for example, especially in crypto, where if they're stolen, they're gone for good. Like, it's not like there's no recourse. I mean, you can pray that somebody is found and then somehow it's. But in reality, you cannot roll it back, right? So that's absolute mission critical. Like, number one risk management thing is you have to make sure that your funds are safe, right? While if you are having, let's say, for example, a B2B service with not too many, let's say, client data, not too sensitive data, then obviously, and you're like super early stage, I mean, then you have a lot more other things to worry about than the integrity of your systems and risk management and things like that. So I would say that it's very, very, very different, and also like in terms of your own role, right? If you're founder starting out a company, then I would say that having a working product and making first sales is a lot more important than the user experience or the kind of technological robustness of the solution. You're gonna figure it out on the way. When you're CEO of a scaling company, then of course it becomes much different. But then you have also resources at hand, and then you have to make sure that you don't get into trouble. Let's put it like that, because there's a lot on the line, a lot of business to lose, a lot of people that rely on you. So yeah, that's kind of the spectrum, I would say.
It changes a lot depending on what you're working with and what you have to consider then based on the risk and everything else when you're in those different industries.
Yeah, there is a very popular term in compliance in financial services, the risk-based approach. So you have to be very good at assessing your own risks and what risks you have to address in what sequence, because you have very limited resources and you will definitely not have enough time and money to address all of them. So you need to pick the ones that are going to hurt you the most if something goes bad. So yeah.
That's good. And as you've played this instrumental role and you founded these companies, we looked at the risk, we've looked at the mentality shift. But when you're building the teams behind this product, obviously you have your current one with the ride-sharing app, where it's a 3-man team and you're looking at the drivers, but you're there for the people management. But that's probably different in the fintech sector and in traditional banking. So when you are building the tech team behind these products, what do you look for in those leaders, those engineers, to ensure quality and a good culture is there and it's not just a checkbox?
Well, my experience is very particular because I started from zero, right? I built up this platform from scratch, and not just the platform, but the business itself, and with quite limited experience. I had this banking experience, but it was basically corporate kind of sales kind of position. So not much insight into how the sausage was made at the bank, right? So for me, it was absolutely critical as a non-technical founder as well, was absolutely critical to find a person that I can trust, who knows what they're doing, and even more importantly, who can make me understand what they're doing. So that's kind of one thing. Second thing is like a strong technical leader is able to provide valuable input to the business logic and business ideas that are brought to them. It's not only like, hey, I need this product or I need this feature, and they're like, yes, okay, it's going to be done. They're like, are you sure that this is the right way to implement that? Do you think that this workflow actually makes sense? I think that this problem could be solved much better with a completely different product solution. And this is especially important in the early stages, right? Because later you have teams of like product managers, you have designers, you have all of that. But in the beginning, you don't have any of that, right? You have just your technical co-founder or your CTO, and you need to be able to get to a working product and good solutions, for a year or two with these limited resources. So that person needs to, ideally they have a pretty good understanding about business in general. Like it's not just only about engineering, but also commercial kind of understanding. And I would say that like for me, a bad leader will be just a person who will accept anything you ask them at face value and execute, because that's not the way how good products are built, in my experience.
So a good leader isn't someone who just gives a task. They're someone who really cares. They understand. They're asking those big questions. It's not just, oh, go ahead, do that. Yeah, that looks fine. It's someone who's like, but is this the right way forward? Is someone who does consider that risk management they're taking on board? We need to build this high quality product. I'm not going to cut a corner here. I need to think the best way, the most cost effective way, and the way that delivers the best product and works with their team to make sure they're getting that result. It's not just someone going, yeah, I gave you that task to do. Just let me know when it's done and I'll push out whatever you give me.
Yeah, well, that is a very, tired corporate
way of doing
things. Yeah. Somebody who is like really, really been at it for a long time and just doesn't care anymore, or works on a project that doesn't inspire them at all. So that is a challenge actually in fintech, how to get people inspired or technical, let's say, teams inspired, because the problems that they're solving, it's like money. It's not like, it's not like saving the world. It's not like coming up with something like radical life improvements or some kind of mission that really needs. It's usually it's quite dull, right? It's just moving money from one place to another in a fast and safe and convenient way, and it takes a lot of creativity and strategic kind of vision to actually sell that as something exciting, because as you know, the battle for talent is tough anywhere, and also here, and you need to often be able to inspire the people just with the product and the vision, because they have like 5 great alternatives what they can be working on. So yeah, that is a bit of an additional challenge that you have when you build in financial services and fintech.
Would you say, I guess, part of that then, or a good leadership thing, is ensuring everyone feels they're part of this end product? Because you have to inspire them, making them feel they're part of it, making them want to produce a really high quality product. So when it does go out there and people do use it, they could have been doing 5 other things, but what they worked on, they see it go out, it does well, it performs as the customers or end users want. So do you say a good leader helps people see the value and the quality they add in their work?
I think a good leader is demanding enough in terms of what the product should look like, that makes the team automatically invested, because they are going to be happy with the outcome if it's going to be serious work put in, and there's high standards of quality. And there's also maybe a bit of time pressure, a bit of effort, coming together, delivering it. So I think that will result in much greater satisfaction if you operate in kind of such environment. So it cannot be just this just needs to be done whatever way. So
that's good. And then looking at the bigger picture and where the software development lifecycle is heading, especially with AI. What should tech leaders and entrepreneurs really consider when they're looking at AI? Because you currently do it with your ride-sharing app, but there are plenty of opportunities. AI, it was a small thing a few years ago, and now it's a buzzword. It's beyond a buzzword. It is something everyone's considering, everyone's talking about. So what should those leaders and tech experts consider with AI? What are the opportunities, and what have you seen?
Well, what I've seen is maybe it doesn't really apply to like tech experts and leaders, but it applies to everybody in terms of like we at OkoRide, we have like 7 months old company with 3 founders and only drivers as employees, and we have been able to achieve a shocking amount of things in all areas of the business, be it like administrative, finance, legal, technology, operational excellence, all of that. And a lot of that has been due to AI in all kinds of forms. And the conclusion that I have from that is that the barriers of entry are just dropping close to zero, which makes it easier to start and easier to test ideas. Obviously, at the same time, it also means that the barriers of succeeding are increasing because there's just so many people able to have the same idea and copy what you're doing and make it better and execute better. So execution and operational excellence, I think, becomes an even more important factor than it has been before, because you talk to most technology leaders, they're going to say that idea is close to nothing, everything is about execution. So I think now the ideas are becoming even less important, because now you can just even ask AI to give you some ideas, and then next AI to write up some kind of mock-up or first prototype, and these opportunities are endless, but that means that this ability to execute becomes even more important. So this is kind of what I'm seeing from my experience.
That's good. And I guess, as you mentioned, a lot more people can code things. So we've got vibe coding. It's easy to build a product, which means it's easy to get started. But everyone finds it easy to get started. So I guess it comes back to the teams and the leaders that you have behind the product, because if everyone can produce a product, it's the people behind the product that are going to make such a big difference with that. And as you said, with your OkoRide, you've been able to do a lot more with less. You have a small team, you have to focus on the drivers. There's a lot more about people management, ensuring the drivers do a good job. And then you've got 3 guys who are able to leverage AI to really push out this product, and it's you guys using the AI to build that product and managing the people, and that's what's driving the success of the company versus anyone else. So it becomes a lot more the teams and the people using the AI if AI can help you sort of make a product.
For sure. I mean, it's like this cliche of AI is not gonna take your job, but it is gonna, like, a person who is good with AI is gonna take your job. So that's kind of, I think, pretty simple. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a lot of crap coming out of AI, right? I was trying to do like scheduling of shifts of drivers that I was doing manually, and I was thinking, okay, I mean, this is a simple mathematical task. I have a certain group of drivers, I have their time availabilities, I have the locations where they are. I mean, why wouldn't an AI be able to come up with the schedule? I gave it to ChatGPT. It gave me absolute gibberish, like complete nonsense.
No sense.
No. Then I tried with Grok. I have found that Grok is a bit better overall at reasoning than ChatGPT, and it came up with something kind of usable. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to adjust this and this, and then like, okay, I'm just going to do it from scratch. So this is just an example that, that this AI is not going to solve all of your problems at an immediate rate. And of course, it is a big skill to improve prompting and getting all kinds of results. So, and you need to be able to use a lot more than just a chat-based AI to really extract the value. So, or like a ChatGPT. I mean, it's. I think most people use it as Google, right? So you need to be a bit more sophisticated than that to extract some value out of there, more value.
Okay, so take your analogy of someone who's good with AI is going to do like a great job. AI is, at the end of the day, it's a tool, and it's the person using the tool. You have to know which chatbot, which tool is the best one to use for each product, and you have to evaluate what comes out of the AI. AI is a tool. It can help you do a lot, but it's on the person to make sure it's not producing gibberish, like you sent it a schedule, we sent it a schedule. I can do this better myself. It is a tool at the end of the day. It can help you do a lot, but it is also on the end user, and the person who knows how to use AI is going to do well with it.
Yes, and the person who is conscious of AI shortcomings, because like I will give you an illustration with the regular like ChatGPT prompt, but if it applies to this situation, I think it also applies to for example vibe coding. Like I was starting to use ChatGPT to ask all kinds of like factual questions. Like for example, like I was in Dubai airport and I was asking in which terminal is my flight, and they started with like it's in terminal D. Oh no, it started with like there is no such flight. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there is such flight.
I have a ticket.
Yeah. Then it's like it's at terminal D. I'm like, I am at terminal D and it's definitely not here. Okay, it's at terminal C at 1:00. And I'm like, no, like it cannot be because of this and this reason. And it just gives you these completely wrong answers with absolute confidence, right? So imagine if you build that into your product, some developer building something completely wrong with absolute confidence, and basically so what I see that it will lead to, and something, for example, I was kind of in my previous company, we were like, we should invest into QA team. Because developers are doing QA themselves on each other, and there's a system, but there's no specific QA specialists, right? And like in the 2023 budget, we're gonna hire this. End of 2023 it was like in the 2024 budget, we're gonna be investing into QA, and I was like, and then there's like it never comes. And as long as everything is fine, nothing bad happens, then you're like, okay, then we're able to handle on our own. So I think that what this will shift into is like if we can have a smaller amount of developers pushing out a higher amount of software, then that finally will lead to a place where there's not going to be only room or resources for more professional quality assurance, but also a bigger need because a lot more stuff is going to be developed using AI. So there's an additional layer of mistakes that can come out of there. So that's kind of what I see that might happen in this quality and safety areas.
That's good. And you've already answered one of the follow-up questions. I was like, when building with AI, what quality and testing challenges do you think companies aren't paying enough attention to? So I will then jump ahead briefly and say, what are the most expensive quality failures you've seen or heard about? Not necessarily in dollar amount, but the biggest impact. So someone didn't check, they published it, and there was a massive data breach. There was a crash. There was
I mean, there's like, I am from the crypto industry, so there's tons. And they are very, very monetary impact clear. That's not the best use of English, but okay, let's live with that. So because they steal money, right? They steal crypto. Okay, the value at the time is one. Maybe in a month it can be different, but it's measurable damage. Because if you lose a database, for example, of your client's personal data, then you can only assign monetary value if they have a class action lawsuit against you, and then you kind of make it very expensive. But what is your reputational damage? What damage from lost customers, etc. is very hard to measure. While as in crypto, if there's a hack and money is stolen, it's very easy to see. And this is actually what I wanted to also mention in this question about what people need to pay more attention to, and it's a very, very hard question, is that most of these hacks are social engineering hacks. It's not like systems fail. Well, they fail in conjunction with a person being duped or a person being a bad actor. So there's always this human, or mostly always this human element. And for example, you ask what big one. For example, this year there was a huge hack of Bybit crypto exchange, more than $1 billion worth of crypto stolen. I don't understand how come they are still there, but that's also something that makes me always suspicious, that you have these companies with these massive hacks and they just shrug it off and then continue operating. I'm like, that's a bit suspicious to me. But okay, but I think what companies need to pay more attention is how to prevent these social engineering hacks, and the conventional wisdom is that systems are there, they're gonna fail. If there's a bad actor inside, you cannot build a perfect system, right? Yes, but it's also very, very hard to train employees. Like, being someone who has been targeted a lot in so many different ways. And I have also been duped, actually, thankfully not for very big amounts, but back in the day when I started with NexPay, we got scammed for a fake YouTube review video or something like that. And so it was a fake person and pretending to be another person, basically. And then after that, and just being head of a company in this space, I have been under constant barrage of all kinds of attacks on all kinds of media. But most people aren't, and it's very, very hard to train this kind of sense of urgency. Of course, it needs to be done. It needs to be done with resilience and with substance. It cannot be just some kind of passive, e-learning clicking that somebody is, half sleeping going through. You need to have maybe inside basically fake attacks by your own tech team or something like that, or you to have people really on alert. And second is, you have to also think from the system perspective. You have to find ways how to have these tripwires internally also for people. If somebody from inside is doing something stupid or doing something bad, you need to be able to somehow detect that. I know it's a very hard problem. But that's why I believe it's not seeing enough attention, because it's always easier to say that we can only build systems, but if people are gonna take a gun to their head, they're gonna shoot themselves. What can we do, right? So I mean, I don't think that's good enough.
Yeah, and I guess it's, to add to your point, it's not something you can just do once and say, cool, they did the training, we're done here. It's something that's getting more advanced. With AI, scammers are getting better. They can make fake accounts. They can make deep fakes of themselves. So you do have to keep reminding people that this isn't just like the old days. Don't click the phishing email from a Nigerian prince asking you for $1 million. It is, you have to keep training. There is new ways to scam, and people need to be aware of those, because that human error is always going to be there. The best you can do is make sure you've done as much as you can to make sure those people know.
That too. And actually, this question, when I was thinking about it, made me think of an idea that I don't know, I haven't researched it. Does it already exist seriously? But you need to also start thinking about social engineering hacks on AI. Like, for example, if you have AI agents in your company doing some kind of tasks, and you know how gullible sometimes AI can be, right? So it's like, okay, you then also need to make sure that somebody is not tricking your AI, some human actually exceeding their intelligence with good old scammer intelligence, and then tricking you out of money, data, or whatever. So this is a new category that we need to think about, is how to prevent AI social engineering hacks.
No, fantastic point. And I do want to say that you have been hosting the Pursuit of Scrappiness podcast for about 4.5 years. You're on a hiatus, but it may come back in the future. It is just a hiatus.
We shall see. We shall see.
But what have you learned about the Baltic tech scene that might surprise people who don't maybe necessarily operate in the Baltics or are looking at the Baltics, but something that might surprise them?
Well, one thing is that I think that people look at the Baltics a lot more than they did before. That's for sure. and the first thing would be the astounding level of scrappiness, pun intended. So you just talk to all kinds of founders and see what they have been able to achieve in very, especially for example, 10 years ago that started earlier. Now of course it's a much different time, but overall this mindset of doing more with less, I think has helped a lot, and is it was not our intention when we came up with the name that it's going to be all about scrappy Baltic founders that are, doing more with less. It was just a cool ring to it, and, scrappiness has been always associated with startups and such. But it actually came up with that, every second or every conversation that we had with founders, we actually were talking about all kinds of scrappy tactics that actually helped them to build their business. So that's one thing. I think it has been a lightning fast ascent from the Stone Age to a very modern age in the Baltics. As I told you, that when I was working 10 years ago in this investment company, there was barely a hint of any technology or startup, let's say, ecosystem in Latvia. There was a bit more in Estonia. They were a couple of years ahead, but now you would say that it's one of the. I mean, everybody knows that in Europe there's the Baltics that are
Scrappy.
up there in terms of at least as these people always like to say when advertising, punching above our weight.
Yeah.
Let's put it like that, right? Because obviously in absolute terms, we're still small, but relatively we have a lot of companies, a lot of investments. So the depth of capital that is already available, of talent, of all kinds of ideas, of accelerators, of government support, and it's just basically. No excuses. No excuses. No excuses. And I think the beautiful thing is well, you live here yourself. You know that the quality of life is here quite high, and how much you can do actually globally by never leaving. I mean, there's big camps in different sides. I mean, one camp is like you have to move to London to make it work, or you have to move to the US to sell in the US. Okay, but then there's another camp, and then companies that I know very well who are selling to the US, selling globally, doing stuff on a great scale. But still maintaining their apartment in a silent center in Riga, or their summer house on the beach, and enjoying the way of life that the Baltics provide with actually building global businesses. So I think that is great. And actually one final thing which I learned more while doing this new business is just how much stuff you can do digitally. I don't think I have been to a single state institution in person. There's like you do something in one institution website, it links with something else.
And you can
find on the other one. There's like, I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect. You still have to pay taxes and stuff, right? but otherwise, I mean, it's very well digitally advanced here in Latvia. I'm sure that it's not worse in Estonia, and then Lithuania is also up there. So in terms of just doing business, it just takes so much less time, because it's not financial services in terms of regulation, but also in this ride-hailing fleets. I mean, you have licenses for the fleet, for the cars, for the drivers. You need to be approved on Bolt for all of them. The cars need to be done in a certain way. And I was doing these batch of new cars and new drivers and thinking, oh my God, just a few years ago, this would have taken us like 5 times more time. And now it's so
big
fast,
advances.
so fast. So I think it's something that spoils you very quickly, and you get used to it. but it's something we should continue to develop and make even better, because it's such a productivity unlock, and with a not very growing population, we need to find all possible ways how to become more productive. So
I think a part of that digitalization, as you mentioned, is in the old days you did have to move to London, you did have to move. But that was a long time ago. With the digital age, you can run a business in the Baltics and Latvia, and all the digital infrastructure, as you said, it's there. You don't have to set up in London because you have all the resources here now. It's easy. You can do that business digitally. No one's sending faxes really anymore, maybe the Germans, but outside of that, no one's sending a fax. No one needs to have a physical paper copy. You can send stuff digitally. There's e-signatures. It all just works as an ecosystem.
Yeah, and then the sooner it works more unified in Europe, the better, for sure.
And then as I guess a final point for this, if you're advising any technical founder building a fintech product, maybe in the Baltics, maybe around looking at the AI tools, the development process, what would you tell them about building quality into their DNA, building those teams, sort of a summary point of what advice would you give them from the get-go? So they're going to see this podcast tomorrow. They're going to think, cool, I'm going to set up my own company. What golden bit of advice would you give them?
Well, one thing is going to be very, let's say, not very genius, that either you have your own experience from this industry or you have a co-founder that has a strong experience in this industry, because it is a very peculiar one and it is very slow and heavy in terms of time and money and investment. And if you make mistakes that you could avoid, it's just going to derail you unnecessarily. And so I would say that it's not the best industry to start completely green. Let's put it like that. That's one thing. Another thing is, don't be over protective of the IP. Don't try to build everything yourself. Like, if you have a product feature that needs to be done, and for somebody else it's their complete product, chances are they know it better than you do, and they're going to do it better than you do. So be smart about what you keep in-house and what you buy and integrate. I think most financial services or fintech companies are a bunch of integrations of different kinds. So don't be afraid of that. Embrace that and actually build your stack in a way that you have a lot of parts moving, and ideally that are easily interchangeable, because you will have some partners that you like and you will have some partners that you absolutely hate. And if you build around your whole product around the latter, then of course you will have pretty big problems. So that is something that you always have to be mindful of. And in fintech, everything is about money, right? So and money is the main source of trust. So over-invest into interfaces and user experiences that deal with money to, first of all, give confidence for the people integrating with or interacting with your product that their money is safe, and second of all, do high level, let's say, technical quality assurance to make sure that you have as little bugs as possible, because there's nothing more terrible as somebody, for example, making a payment and then the payment is gone. It's not on the recipient's account. It's not on your account. It's not in some kind of transit mode. It's just gone. Then there's somebody's, getting cold sweats and it's just a minor glitch on the interface. But for the customers, where's my money? What happened? What did I do wrong, right? So you really need to be careful that everything that is customer facing, when it comes to money, all of the balances have to match. And all of the money has to be easy to trace, and of course, overall intuitive interfaces are big winners. I have very good experience with couple platforms in terms of onboarding with Revolut Business. Wow, it's really amazing user experience, and and also good, very good product for investing. Lightyear, Estonian company. They just have made such a simple, clean interface and product that everything is so easy to understand and use. So look at these kind of examples and then try to meet those levels of expectations. So yeah, that would be some advice.
That's great advice. We are coming to the end of our time, but before we go, I wanted to ask you, for our listeners' benefit, how can they learn more about you, your journey, your work you're doing, maybe a podcast?
Well, you can definitely see more than 200 episodes more than 200 episodes of the podcast. I have been somewhat active on LinkedIn before. To be honest, ever since I jumped into this ride-hailing fleet business, I have not been posting much. It has been like a second priority, let's put it like that. In Fintech, it felt much more higher ROI of this kind of public communication. But yeah, LinkedIn it is. Otherwise, I'm not very active on social media. Yeah, I am. That's the place. So do check out OkoRide, especially if you're in Latvia, in Riga. Use Comfort Electric on Bolt. There's a high chance you will get one of our Teslas. So yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. So if you do want to learn more about Uldis and his journey, you can check him out on LinkedIn. And if you're in Riga, you might end up in one of his Teslas, which would be very fun. But as we close off this episode, I'd like to thank Uldis once more for joining us today, sharing his insights. It's been great to learn about your tech journey and the knowledge you gained from your broad range of experience across the fintech industry and beyond. And as mentioned, if you'd like to know more about Uldis' journey, you can follow him on LinkedIn. And if you want to follow our work at TestDevLab and learn more about building top-notch, great, high-quality products, you can check out our knowledge base, where we have our blog, white papers, and of course, more episodes of Tech Effect. So Uldis, for the third time, thank you once again for joining us today, sharing your insights, and thank you to you, the audience, for joining us today, and I'll see you in the next episode.